Good evening, everyone out there on YouTube. My name is Jared. This is my channel, Mazda B3K. In this video, we are going to remove the radiator hoses on my 1997 Ford E-150 Starcraft Conversion due to them being oil contaminated. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so if you've been following along with the Battle for the 5.4 video series, you know that I diagnosed a bad oil cooler. I diagnosed bad intake gaskets, which let coolant get into oil and oil into coolant. So I've been spending a lot of time getting that all straightened out. But the bottom line is these hoses have had oil leaking into them for a while. The cooler had a slow leak for a while, is my guess, based on what I saw. So they need to come off. We got an upper and a lower, and we're going to start with the upper. And in order to get to it, I think we can get away with just removing from here over. And to do that, you're going to have a pair of 8mm here, a pair of 8mm there, and you're going to have an 8mm here, and then this just pops out, kind of rotates off. So we'll get that out of the way, and that should give us access to the intake side of the hose, so that way we'll have access to both sides. We can crack this thing off and get it threaded. Alright, when you go to pull this off and you pop this loose, be mindful that you've got a connector for your MAF sensor on the other side, so don't just yoink it out, pull it slow, so then you can get access to the connector, disconnect it, and then set this aside. So if you go to, I need both hands to do this, but let's see if I can wiggle this off. That's part of it. There's the rest of it, and then, yeah, see? Connector. So make sure you get that, and then pull this free. With that out of the way, we got a lot more room for activities. So here's the other end. It goes into your water neck where your thermostat is. So also, if you need to do a thermostat, it's not too bad to do on these. So get that off, get this off. Now, if you haven't pulled these hoses in a while, they're going to be kind of stuck. If you got enough strength to twist them, that'll pop them loose. If you don't have enough strength, take a pick, get under there, start wiggling. A little silicone spray also can help a lot. Try to get most of it broken free using your pick, and then you can just twist with your hands to pop it loose. Alright, our new upper is a Gates 22315. Apologize for the noise. My kids are out on the go-kart. This thing pretty much only is going to go one way. Don't forget to transfer your spring clamps if you still have them. Worm clamps will also work. I find, even though I have the right tool, locking pliers are the way to go. Alright, after much fiddling, I've got it on. Make sure that you get the hose fully seated and that your spring clamp is over meat, it's over plastic or metal, and it's not just half hanging off the hose. Half hanging off, that'll give you leaks and it'll wear on your hose. So make sure you're appropriately positioned. So the next step is, in order to free up, I don't know if you've looked at your lower radiator assembly yet, but it's a multi-hose assembly. It's kind of a Cthulhu monster. So there you go, and it's got a bunch of hoses going everywhere. You've got two that go back to your oil cooler. You have one that goes to the block. You have one side that goes to the lower radiator. In fact, I think, yeah, so this is to your bottle. This is your oil cooler, and then this and that are going to be your block and radiator ends respectively. So that covers all that. You may say, well, wait, what about the heater core hoses? Well, they take different travels. They kind of come in up over here. It's an entirely separate hose assembly. If you look it up online, I am not doing that today, as I manipulated those hoses. They felt pretty good, so I'm okay with them. But these bigger radiator lines, when I was squeezing on them, they were crunching, which meant their inner lining was degraded, and that was because of the oil leak. from the leaking oil cooler. So anyway, we need to get this end loose, and I figure the best way to do that is going to be to take the degas bottle loose. That's going to be 3 8mm, and of course you got to get this loose, which I've already done. Don't lose this one, fellas. It's unobtainium. I looked, you can't find it. No third party makes it. So if this ever went patooey, you're going to have to do like a line, an elbow, and then a line, and that'll do you, I think. Anyway, we're gonna get that out, then we're gonna go fight with that. Oil cooler lines are already pretty much disconnected because I had to bypass them during the diagnostic process, so that just leaves the block side and the radiator side, and that'll be the entire lower hose assembly. Alright, so we got that off. Slide the spring clamp back, give it a wiggle jiggle. So with that done, I'm going to go ahead and I got to take my bypass apart for the coolant hoses, and then I got to work on dropping the main parts of the lower hose, and we should be able to pull the whole assembly out. Yeah. Alright, we are under the vehicle. What you see there, those are your 2 oil cooler lines. Normally they are, see if I can do this here. Apologize for the potato camera. But they're right there. But what I did is I had to bypass my oil cooler because it was bad. And so I looped the coolant lines on themselves, and I found this is a 3/4 inch hose, and I looped the cooler lines so that way oil wouldn't be spilling out, so that way I could idle the engine and stuff like that, and it worked great. Fixing that tonight. But for our purposes, the big thing is now those lines are free, and we can go up to the block and the radiator and free. Alright, so this is lower rad. You can see that despite all my efforts to drain everything out, there is still fluid here. And you can also see it's pretty nasty. So we're gonna kind of find a way to shove it off so that it lands in our pan that is in position. Yep. Oh. Alright, got most of it. Oh, it's so bad. This is where all the nasty stuff went. Oh. So bad. Alright, this one's going to be a little tricky to see. So let me see if I can zoom in. Alright, so under that long stud right there, that is the connection to the block. It's in a really bad place. You can't really get to it from the bottom. You have to go from the top, and you got to really reach in and hope that you're right-handed, because your left hand's not going to get in there. What I had to do with this one is I had to cut it. So I took a straight razor, or box blade, whatever you want to call it, razor blade, and I made a series of cuts over and over and over until I started cutting through the hose, and then I took a screwdriver and finished ripping it open. And once I ripped it open long enough, it took the tension off the hose. I was able to peel more of it off the nipple there and finally get the hose free. There is a spring clamp there. It is a pain in the ass to get to. Got on it and we slid that out of the way. So now if you're wondering why the whole thing's not just falling out, it's because there is a clamp. It's right there. It's on just ahead of the vice grips there, that is holding the oil cooler lines in place, and I believe it's an 8mm bolt. It's holding that shut. So I need to get in there, get it out, and then we can finally pull the whole thing out and then start the process of putting it all back. Okay guys, you see that to the left of the obnoxious engine oil stick? That was turned out to be a 10mm bolt. Clamp is now open. I'm gonna get down there, and those are for your cooler lines. I'm gonna slide them forward, and then we can pull this whole thing out. All right, with that, it's out. The degas bottle hose is going to fight you. It's routed under the power steering line, and it gets pinched in the fan shroud, so you have to kind of just push and pull it around until you can get it out. The clamp comes with on the oil cooler lines, so that wasn't too bad. Alright, congratulations, you got it out. Now let's make sure you got the right parts, because there were two different parts that I kept finding and I couldn't really tell which was what. So let's lay this out. Alright, so this should be our degas. That is the block. This is the rad, and that is our cooling. Okay, so it looks like they did run the hoses a little bit different. I just have to make it work. So it looks like overall this will match. This is a Dayco 72329. The difference was supposed to be like the heavy duty versus the non-heavy duty, and you know, when I'm looking here, I don't really see a huge difference. They they went with a zip tie instead of a clamp. They just can't transfer it over, I guess. Alright, so that looks close enough for me, and we're gonna start trying to shove this sucker back in. And first thing we're going to do is route through the cooler lines and route up the degas bottle, and once we get those two done, the rest of it should just kind of fall into place. Alright guys, let me see if I can't get this set up a little better for you. There we go. So we see our clamp down there, the one with the two cooler hoses. Word to the wise on that: if you want to avoid 40 minutes of frustration, take some locking pliers, lock the very tiny outside corner of it, because the bolt they give you to get that in is really short, and that'll make your life so much easier. Pro tip. Alright guys, sorry for the potato lighting. I'm not really set up for night filming, but here we are. So that's our engine block again. Pro tip: go ahead, compress your spring clamp, go ahead and slide it onto the neck where the hose is supposed to go. Put the hose on, then slide it back, get it in position, and let it go. That way you've got a lot less fighting on your hands with the spring clamp, since it's really awkward to get to. Good afternoon everyone. Today is a new day, a much later day from the rest of this video. It's been about 2 months since I swapped out the main radiator hoses, top and bottom, and it's been great. No leaks, things have stayed cool, no strangeness has happened. I know in the video parts that are in this video, I pretty much only cover how to take it apart, and the reason why I did that is because putting it back together is really the reverse of taking it apart, except for those couple of instances where I pointed out pro tip, or you should do it this way, or things like that. So this is just kind of a conclusion segment to kind of bring it all back together. I don't know if I pointed it out, but one thing you do want to do, make sure that you put this thing back together. This little clip to help keep your radiator hose tucked up, because you know, ground clearance is very much a thing, and if you hit something on the highway or whatnot, you'll tear the bottom clean out of this, which is no bueno. Alright, like I said, this is just a conclusion segment, so everything turned out fine. Follow this video and you should be successful in getting everything swapped out.